Hello, I'm Laura. It's Sunday, November 30th, 2025, and these are today's Heartlines. We began not just a new theme today, but a new season. We are moving into the season of Advent with the first Sunday of Advent, hence the wonderful purple candle being lit behind me. And these great items on the shelf behind me will also be explained as we move through this season. You see, the season of Advent, which is actually based in Christian tradition, has a universal feel to it, a universal feel of possibility and moving forward even when things seem difficult. And so we are celebrating this season by taking ideas from this book, With Love at Christmas, published by Unity. It's an Advent booklet, and we're going to check in a little bit on what each day says and utilize perhaps one of the quotes or ideas to support the topic of that day. So we start today with the idea of light, because our wonderful Reverend Maggie Alderman, who is the head of the prayer ministry in Unity, has written this opening passage. And she speaks of the lights that tend to go up at this season that fill our neighborhoods and our cities, and even the farms out in the rural countryside light up at this time of year. And it's light that shines in the darkest season, because this is the time that the days are at their shortest. So this is what we look to with this week's theme of hope and faith. Hope and faith, which is based on this Advent booklet. So what is hope? Hope is our ability to see the light, whether it is in wonderful times or in times of darkness and despair. Because just as courage doesn't require the absence of fear, but is actually something that is called forth in the face of fear, so hope doesn't require the absence of despair. It is actually something that arises within us in the face of despair. And so if you have had any despair over recent headlines in your country or here in the United States, where we have seen the death of a National Guardsman after a shooting in Washington, D.C., and the government's response of actually cracking down even more on its immigration policies and applying them to whole groups of people who were not responsible for this shooting, you might get a sense of despair if you're sitting in this country and saying, when is this kind of oppression going to come to an end? Because we are all created equal. So with that in our hearts, we might despair at what we are seeing in our headlines, and that's where hope comes in. We may not know the fullness of the solution or how it will unfold, but by holding hope, we can hold people in our hearts and prayers. We can look for the ways through organizations and communications to bring the reality of justice and equality for all into being, because we start with a little hope, our ability to see the light in the darkness. And we also follow through with faith, our ability to be the light in the darkness. Faith is our ability to act on things and to trust that we are moving toward a better outcome for all. So we're going to begin this way of being right now through a time of silent contemplation. And I'm going to read, going into that time, what Maggie Alderman has written. She says, the act of bringing light into a darkened world moves us deeply. Light becomes more than decoration. It becomes a symbol, a beacon of hope. It reminds us that we have enough inner resources to endure temporary darkness. And as winter into spring reminds us, as night into day reminds us, darkness is always temporary, but there's light even in the darkness. It can encourage us to go within and find that light. So let's do that right now. Let's take a deep breath and close our eyes and focus on this wonderful idea. In times of delight and darkness, I see the light of hope, and I am the light of faith. In times of delight and darkness, I see the light of hope, and I am the light of faith. And so it is. So while I'm sitting here at the baker's shelf in a corner of my kitchen, the dishes to my left are being washed. You may have heard the rhythmic washing of them or not, I don't know. But as I hear it here, I let that sound of washing cleanse me, because that's what the Advent season is. It's a time of washing away all that blocks our ability to see the light and to be the light. So I am glad you paused today, even though this video is a bit late getting out for some of you in some parts of the world. I hope many of you get to enjoy it, because we can see the light and be the light in our world. So thank you for joining me today to begin our season of adventure and our week of hope and faith. Have a wonderful day.